Archaeology represents a constant search for answers. The information we uncover about our ancestors, our world, and even the universe is generally provided piecemeal, which means that we rarely have the full picture about a particular person, civilization, or event. New artifacts are being unearthed every day, and scientists continue to push the boundaries of space exploration, but that does not mean that the collective knowledge of our past and reality is steadily growing. Some discoveries are so bizarre, mysterious, and unique that they serve only to raise more questions instead of providing answers. When something falls so far outside the boundaries of our understanding that even the brightest minds are left without an explanation, it becomes a true enigma. Here are 15 baffling discoveries that nobody on Earth can fully explain. Let's start off with number 15. The face carvings of Lepenski Vir. We start off with what is likely the oldest entry on our list, found in Serbia at a Mesolithic site called Lepenski Vir. This is one of the most significant locations in European archaeology, as it represents one of the earliest permanent settlements on the continent. It provides invaluable insight into one of the oldest known cultures in Europe, the Iron Gates culture. That being said, there are still plenty of gaps in our understanding of this ancient civilization, particularly regarding the eerie sculptures unearthed at the site. Their purpose and meaning continue to baffle scholars. These sculptures, estimated to be around 8,000 years old, range from simple geometric patterns to human-like faces that appear unnervingly sinister by modern standards. Many feature wide, bulbous eyes and downturned mouths that evoke emotions of fear or sorrow. Carved from quartz sandstone, nearly 100 of these artifacts have been discovered since excavations began in the 1960s. Some appear so alien that archaeologists suspect they may not depict humans at all, but rather fish. Sadly, their exact significance remains purely unknown. Number 14. Rujm el-Hiri. Known by different names, Rujm el-Hiri in Arabic, Gilgal Rephaim in Hebrew, and sometimes the Golan Stonehenge, this site is among the most perplexing ancient structures in the Middle East. Located in the Golan Heights, this 5,000-year-old megalithic site has drawn comparisons to Stonehenge. However, unlike its English counterpart, Rujm el-Hiri is not made of massive stone slabs, but consists of over 40,000 tons of basalt rocks, carefully arranged into 5 concentric circles. The largest circle spans over 500 feet in diameter, with a 15-foot-high central cairn that once served as a tomb before it was looted. First documented in the 1960s, the site has since been extensively studied, yet major questions remain unanswered. Who built it? What was its purpose? Was it used for religious rituals or astronomical observations? And who was buried at its center? For now, it remains one of the region's most cryptic monuments, one that may never fully reveal its secrets. Number 13. The Porpoise Grave. In 2017, archaeologists excavating the tiny island of Chapelle Dom Hugh off the coast of Guernsey set out to uncover a medieval church. Instead, they stumbled upon something much stranger, the carefully buried remains of a porpoise. The sea creature had been placed in its grave nearly 600 years ago, and the big mystery is, why? The only inhabitants of the island at the time were monks, leading researchers to initially suspect a religious significance. However, if this was some sort of ritual, it would be an anomaly in Christian tradition. Another possibility is that the porpoise was meant to be food, yet if that were the case, why go through the trouble of digging a hole when the ocean was just a few feet away? If this was common practice, more such burials should have been discovered, but none have. The prevailing theory suggests a more practical explanation: food preservation. The monks may have buried the porpoise in salt or brine to store it, then simply forgotten about it. While this theory makes sense, even its proponents admit that the true reason behind the burial may never be definitively known. Number 12. The Singapore Stone. Singapore's modern history began in 1819 when it was established as a British trading post. But hints of earlier civilizations exist in the form of scattered stories, texts, and maps that suggest settlements thrived in the area centuries before colonization. Unfortunately, records from this era are scarce, making pre-colonial Singapore one of history's most elusive mysteries. One artifact offers a tantalizing clue: the Singapore Stone. Now displayed in the National Museum of Singapore, this sandstone fragment was once part of a massive monolith, measuring 3 meters high and 3 meters wide. Dating between the 10th and 14th centuries, it stood at the mouth of the Singapore River, allegedly placed there by a legendary strongman named Badung. More importantly, its surface bore 50 lines of inscriptions that might have contained vital details about Singapore's ancient past. Sadly, we may never know what they said. In 1843, the British destroyed the monolith to widen the river's mouth and make room for a fort. The only surviving fragment, the Singapore Stone, remains undeciphered to this day, guarding its secrets behind an ancient, indecipherable script. Number 11. The Selangor Skull Helmets. Arguably, the most disturbing find on this list was made in 2019 at Selangor, an archaeological site on Ecuador's central coast. While excavating remnants of the ancient Guangala culture, researchers unearthed 11 burials dating to around 100 BC. Among them were 2 infants, one about 18 months old and the other between 6 to 9 months. But what set them apart was the chilling headgear they wore. Their skulls had been placed inside the larger skulls of older children. Even in the vast spectrum of burial customs, this was unprecedented. Researchers believe this is the first known instance of human skulls being used as mortuary headgear. Even more unsettling, evidence suggests the helmets would have still had flesh and tissue attached when placed, otherwise they would have crumbled apart. The biggest question remains: why? Other infant remains found at the site had been buried in a traditional manner, without skull helmets. Was this part of a ritual? A form of protection for the deceased? So far, no clear explanation exists, making this one of the most macabre and perplexing finds in archaeology. Number 10. The Cursed Amethyst. All right, now, let's talk about something cursed. The Delhi purple sapphire, despite its name actually an amethyst, has a sinister reputation. Originally housed in a temple dedicated to Indra in India, the gemstone was looted during the Indian Rebellion of 1857 and taken to England by Colonel Ferris of the Bengal Cavalry. From that moment on, misfortune plagued its owners. Ferris and his son both suffered financial ruin and ill health. In 1890, the stone came into the possession of writer Edward Heron Allen, who also experienced a streak of misfortune. After lending it to friends, who all encountered disaster, he hurled it into a canal, only for it to be returned to him. Convinced of its curse, Heron Allen locked it inside 7 boxes and stashed it in a bank vault. His daughter later donated it to London's Natural History Museum, where it remains untouched. Whether the curse is real or coincidence, no one has dared to own it since. Number 9. The Bird in the Child's Mouth. 50 years ago, archaeologists unearthed the remains of a child deep within Tunel Wielkie Cave in Poland's Saspauska Valley. The discovery was already eerie, but what made it even stranger was that a bird's skull was placed inside the child's mouth, with another resting by their cheek. Instead of investigating further, researchers boxed up the remains and tossed them into storage, their findings barely mentioned except for a single photograph in a 1980s book. The burial itself is a mystery, dating back only 200 years, much younger than the cave's other human remains, which are at least 4,000 years old. But the biggest twist? The child's skull has vanished. It was reportedly sent to Wrocław for further study, but now no one knows where it is. a burial with an unknown purpose, missing remains, and decades of silence. This case is more than just a mystery. Number 8. The Great Serpent Mound. In the rolling landscape of Ohio lies the Great Serpent Mound, a massive earthwork stretching 1,300 feet in length and shaped like a snake about to devour an egg, or maybe the sun. Built around 1070 AD, it's a marvel of ancient engineering, yet no one knows exactly who built it or why. Radiocarbon dating suggests a rough timeline, but the mound's true origins remain elusive. Some believe it represents an eclipse or lunar phases, while others think it aligns with the summer solstice, acting as a celestial calendar. Then there's the darker theory, ritual sacrifice. The mound was once home to a blackened stone monument, and nearby, archaeologists have uncovered headless skeletons, ceremonial knives, and scorched stones. Was it a sacred site, a tool for astronomical tracking, or something more sinister? Well, drop your theory below. Now, let's move to Number 7. The underwater enigma of the Sea of Galilee. In 2003, researchers scanning the Sea of Galilee stumbled upon something shocking, a massive circular stone structure lurking beneath the water. This isn't a random pile of rocks. It's an intentional construction made from huge basalt boulders, estimated to be at least 4,000 years old. Archaeologists believe it was originally built on land before being swallowed by rising waters. But why would an ancient civilization go through the trouble of constructing something so huge? Theories range from a burial mound to a sacred landmark, yet no definitive answers exist. Some even joke that ancient pranksters built it just to confuse future generations. One thing is certain. Creating this structure required an advanced and organized society. But without records or artifacts to explain its purpose, it remains one of the most baffling underwater discoveries ever made. Number 6. Casa Grande. Standing in the Arizona desert is Casa Grande, one of North America's largest pre-Columbian ruins. Built around 1350, this four-story structure hints at an advanced civilization, yet no one knows exactly what it was for, or why it was abandoned just a century later. The ancient builders, likely the Hohokam people, were skilled engineers with irrigation systems and vast trade networks. Some speculate Casa Grande was a political center, a religious site, or even the residence of an elite family. It also features alignments that track celestial events like equinoxes and solstices, suggesting it could have functioned as an observatory. By the time European explorers documented it in the late 1600s, it was already in ruins. With no written records left behind, its original purpose is lost to time. Was it a thriving hub or a sacred temple? Unless new evidence emerges, Casa Grande will remain an enigma buried in the sands of history. Number 5. East Shifting Tornado Alley. For decades, Tornado Alley has been the prime hotspot for violent twisters. But something strange is happening. The tornadoes are shifting east. While states like Oklahoma, Texas, and Colorado still experience the most tornadoes per year, their overall numbers have declined since the late 1970s, especially in central and eastern Texas. Meanwhile, areas east of the Mississippi River are seeing an increase in tornadic activity, leaving scientists puzzled. Victor Gensini of Northern Illinois University suggests that the shift is due to the drying of the Great Plains. Tornadoes typically form where dry air from the west collides with moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. As this dry line moves eastward, so do the storms. However, the cause of this shift remains uncertain. Is it a result of human-induced climate change or just a natural fluctuation? Until researchers find definitive proof, Tornado Alley's migration remains one of meteorology's greatest mysteries. Number 4. Giraffe skin disease. Since the 1990s, giraffes across sub-Saharan Africa, both in the wild and in captivity, have been afflicted by a bizarre skin disease. The condition causes lesions and thick, crusty patches on their bodies, but scientists still don't know what's behind it. Is it a combination of infections? A response to environmental changes? No one knows for sure. What makes it even more bizarre is the lack of clarity on its effects. Does it impact the giraffe's mobility, reproduction, or lifespan? That's still a mystery. Fred Berkovich, director of Save the Giraffes, argues that without more information, conservation efforts shouldn't prioritize this disease, at least not yet. However, if researchers can determine how it spreads and whether it poses a long-term threat to the species, it could change how we approach giraffe conservation. But for now, nobody can explain it. Number 3. Mysterious seismic waves. On November 11, 2018, something unprecedented happened. Seismic waves rippled across the globe, but no earthquake had been reported. The event originated near Mayotte, a French island between Africa and Madagascar, an area that had been experiencing unusual seismic activity for months. But this time, it was different. Lasting about 20 minutes, the waves traveled thousands of kilometers, triggering earthquake monitors worldwide, yet no one felt a thing. Unlike typical quakes, which produce a chaotic mix of frequencies, this event generated a uniform, pulsing signal. Seismologists were baffled. John Ristow of GeoNet compared the signal to a 6.3 magnitude earthquake in the North Atlantic, noting their striking differences. One theory suggests an undersea volcanic eruption, while another proposes a slow, unregistered earthquake. Despite extensive analysis and research, the exact cause remains unknown. Number 2. The Antarctic particles that shatter physics. In March 2016, NASA's ANITA detected something that should be impossible: a high-energy particle blasting upward from beneath the Antarctic ice. According to the standard model of physics, this shouldn't happen. Normally, low-energy neutrinos pass through Earth unimpeded, but high-energy particles should collide with matter long before escaping. Yet, Anita observed just that: particles behaving in a way that defies everything we know. Scientists speculate that these could be undiscovered particles, possibly linked to dark matter or sterile neutrinos, which interact with normal matter far less frequently than expected. Further analysis, including data from the IceCube Neutrino Observatory, suggests that these particles have a less than 1 in 3.5 million chance of being part of the known standard model. If confirmed, this discovery could rewrite physics as we know it. But for now, the origin of these bizarre Antarctic particles remains a mystery. Number 1. Persistent noctilucent clouds. Noctilucent clouds, glowing blue streaks in the sky just after sunset, typically appear high in the mesosphere under specific summer conditions. First observed after the 1883 eruption of Krakatoa, these eerie clouds form when ice crystals cling to dust, likely from meteoroids. Scientists thought they understood their behavior until 2018. That summer, something unexpected happened. Instead of dissipating in late July as usual, noctilucent clouds intensified well into August. Data from NASA's microwave limb sounder revealed an increase in atmospheric moisture. But why? Some experts suspect an early onset of the solar minimum, a period of reduced solar activity, which can cause colder, wetter conditions in the mesosphere. Others believe planetary wave action in the southern hemisphere may have altered atmospheric moisture levels. Whatever the reason, 2018 shattered expectations, proving that we still don't fully understand the delicate balance that creates these mesmerizing celestial displays. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.